Good morning. We're back here for our weekly installment of Family Friday. My name is Chase Henson. I am the pastor at First Baptist Church in Bonham, Texas. I want to welcome you to our discussion this morning. Now, we didn't do Family Friday last week because I was gone with the youth on a Easter retreat, but we're back at our normal schedule this week. So I appreciate you joining with us today. I do want to remind you that we are doing this in the morning. We've been trying to do it in the mornings for the last several weeks, just because it gives us a little bit more exposure during the day. So if you happen to watch this later, just know that you can always watch them later on. You don't have to watch them live for sure. Now today I want to talk to you about some balance in our lives as parents. One of the greatest urges that we have as parents is to protect our kids. And this is a good urge, a good instinct that the Lord has entrusted to our hearts when we have children. But it can sometimes go awry, like just about anything in life. And so I want to talk to you today about some of that balance. And in fact, a week or so ago, I read an article, which I'm going to link to in the comments below, called Hard Truths for Modern Parents. It was written by a lady named Harriet Connor. And one of the things that she writes in here is that as parents, we're not responsible for our children's perpetual comfort. I'm going to read you a little snippet from this. She says, modern parenting is often driven by the fear of our children suffering any kind of harm. So we scramble to protect our kids from the slightest difficulty or disappointment. This mentality can result in anxious parents and children who lack resilience and self-confidence. When we overprescribe the drug of instant comfort, we deny our children the chance to strengthen their immunity to hardship. And that really hit me because I've felt this or thought this kind of thing before, but I didn't have a really good way to articulate it, and I think she's kind of put it down. But we recently had a chance to apply this in our own family. One of our children was playing baseball and got hit in the face. It was a minor injury. He's okay. But it caused him to have some swelling in his face, and one of the things that he said was that he was a little bit afraid to go to school because, of course, he didn't want the other kids to make fun of him. And of course, this brings up a whole host of different things like bullying and just how kids treat each other and all this kind of thing. I know that's a big deal in our society right now, but one of the things that our thought was immediately was, well, do we want to keep him home from school? Well, after we had gone to the dentist and got him checked out, and the dentist said, he's okay to return to class and everything, we decided to go ahead and let him go, even though he may be exposed to some of that difficulty in the relationships that sometimes have, because kids do make fun of each other at times and things like this. And of course, we alerted the teacher to all this, and she was kind enough to help with all that as well. But one of the things that we thought about in this whole thing is, one of our desires was to protect him, as we should, as a parent, but there's also a competing value to prepare him for some of those difficulties. And certainly, someone making fun of you because your lip is a little bit big is not anything in comparison to what a lot of kids have faced, especially recently with some of the shootings and things like this. But there are times and there are reasons why sometimes we may allow our kids to be exposed to some difficulty and some things like this to prepare them for life. And so I got to thinking about this idea that as parents, we have two responsibilities that sometimes compete with each other, and we have to find a balance between them. One is protection, right? As we talked about, we ought to protect our children. That's one of the chief things that God entrusts to us, right? We don't want them to become abused or harmed or someone to take advantage of them, and so we want to protect them from financial difficulties and physical harm and things like this. But yet we also, as parents, are responsible for something that they need perhaps even more than safety, and that is moral formation. Now, I've been talking to you about that a little bit over the last few weeks in terms of praying with our children and teaching them the Scripture and things like this. These are all aspects of moral formation, all-day discipleship. And so I think that as parents, what we have to do is to try to figure out where there are times when we may allow our children, especially progressively as they grow, to face different sorts of difficulties. Maybe it's they've taken an action and they have to have a consequence of that action, or maybe it is exposure to some of the meanness of other people so that they know how to respond and to bless and not curse, right? And so one of our jobs as parents is to discipline our kids, not in the sense of, corporal punishment or anything like that, although sometimes that is necessary as well, but discipline in the sense of training. And so, for instance, in Hebrews 12, it says this: "Our fathers disciplined us for a little while as they thought best, but God disciplines us for our good, that we may share in His holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." And so this is, of course, discipline in the sense of training us towards righteousness. And I got to thinking, if this is how God is with us, then it's a pattern for our own parenting of our children as well. So God, in His sovereign wisdom and His infinite power, knows when to allow us to face various difficulties and struggles in life. He doesn't protect us from every single one of those. One day He will, right? One day He will raise us up again, and there will be no more death and disease, no more difficulty. But right now, in order to train us in the character that He wants to form in us, He actually allows us to face different things in order to purify our hearts, to lead us to holiness. In fact, He did this with His own Son, right? Who He did not spare from the cross, but instead for our good, sent Him to the cross to give us life everlasting. And so there is something to be gained in not always being freed from discomfort or difficulty, but of learning to be prepared for it. In fact, one of the things I wrote in preparation for this is that my job as a parent is not to protect my kids from every discomfort and difficulty, but to prepare them for such eventualities. Because I can't make sure that no one ever makes fun of my child. I can't absolutely make sure that no one's ever going to, say a bad word to them or be mean to them. And of course, I want to protect them. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, as I said, but there are going to be things that I just simply don't have the power to overcome in their life. And so they're going to have to face difficulty of various kinds, right? Maybe it's something I can't protect them from, like a sickness or disease or an accident. And so I really can't give perpetual comfort to my child or any of my children. And so I have to prepare them to face those things with forgiveness if necessary, with resiliency, with confidence that God is in control of our lives and that there is coming a day when those things will be wiped away, every tear will be wiped away, and we won't have to worry about them. But until then, we do have to learn, even as Jesus provided the example for us, of what it is or how we showcase the character of Christ in our hearts. Harriet goes on to say this: hardship can be a powerful tool in our children's moral education. Our job is not to steer our children around difficulties, but to walk alongside them through it all. When we allow our children to experience small doses of hard things, disappointment, frustration, boredom, delay, we're helping them to develop resiliency that will serve them later in life. And so I think this is something that we have to, part of the wisdom of parenting is knowing the balance between when protection and safety is the most important value to bring in as a parent, and when we may actually allow a person to be exposed to some sort of difficulty in order to achieve a greater goal of moral formation and good character, right? Maturity. Because that's one of the things that maturity is about, is experience, learning to experience different things in life and respond to them in a way that's appropriate. Now, of course, I think the younger your kids are, the more likely you're going to protect them and see safety as a larger goal. But as they grow older and gain more ability to react and respond in a way that's appropriate, right? The balance may shift a little bit, and so you may allow them to have more freedom or more opportunity to get hurt. In fact, I think this is one of the reasons why helicopter parenting, as you've probably heard that term, is problematic, because that balance is never realigned. People are taking their kids to college and not allowing them to experience or to take some responsibility for themselves, and it ends up crippling or hurting them in the long run because they've never learned to handle adversity. I know when I was an RA, this is one of the things that we had to deal with. Sometimes there were parents who wanted to do everything for their kids or not allow them to face the consequences of their action. Maybe they didn't do their job at school and do their homework, and so then they were mad at the professor because they were giving them a bad grade, right? That's a disservice to our children. They have to learn what responsibility is about, and sometimes that there are difficulties that even we don't create for ourselves. Someone does something to us, and so we have to learn to respond, and this is part of maturity. And so as you think about your relationship with your child, I want you to think about what is the balance between safety and sanctification. What's the balance between protection and preparation? How do I protect my children when it's right and good, but also progressively expose them or allow life to kind of come in so that they learn what it's like and how to respond, so that when they become an adult and they have their own family, they'll know what it's like or how to respond in a way that's appropriate, that's godly, and certainly that teaches their own kids and their own family what it means to be a godly person in a difficult world. So today, that's our Family Friday. I appreciate you joining with us. We'll be back next week around 9 a.m. as well. If you happen to be in the Bonham area, we'd love for you to come to church with us this Sunday. We have Sunday school for all ages at 9:30 a.m. We also have corporate worship at 10:45, so we'd love to see you at one of those. If you have any questions or you want any information about the church, you can search through our Facebook page. You can also go to FBC Bonham at fbcbonham.com. That you can find out tons of information about visiting the church, upcoming events, and things like that as well. Of course, you can always email us. All that information is there on the Facebook page or on the website as well. Or you can always stop by as well. We're here Monday through Thursday and half a day on Friday, and so we'd love for you to stop by if you have any questions or want to get to know any of us. We'd love to see you and do that. Also, one final thing, if you would help us out, you can simply share this video. That increases our audience and helps people know what we're about and what we're trying to do, and hopefully find an encouraging word for themselves as well. So somewhere down there, make sure you hit the share button and share it with your family and friends. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you, and we hope to see you soon.